It was January 6th, 2026 at 2:47 a.m. when a dream so vivid and disturbing it felt like my mother's own hand shaking me awake drove me to the beach shoreline near my home, and there, surrounded by the rhythmic crash of midnight waves against sand still holding the day's warmth, the salt-thick air wrapping around me like a blanket soaked in tears, the moon hanging low and swollen over the Pacific horizon casting silver pathways across the churning water, Jesus appeared before me with tears streaming down his face that shocked revelation about the mothers in heaven, your mothers, watching, weeping, sending messages that are being ignored, dismissed, forgotten in the noise of your daily life. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past, some will ignore it, but you've been marked. You've been marked because your mother, whether she passed last year or 20 years ago, whether you had a beautiful relationship or a complicated one, whether you said goodbye properly or never got the chance, she has been given permission to send you one final message. And you have 15 seconds to decide if you're going to receive it. I know how that sounds. I know the skepticism rising in your chest right now. But before you click away, before you dismiss this as emotional manipulation or religious theater, I need you to understand something. I didn't ask for this encounter. I didn't go seeking some mystical experience to share with you. I was driven there, to that beach, in the middle of the night, by something so powerful it pulled me from sleep like a fish on a hook. Listen, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Rumi. I portray Jesus in The Chosen, the largest crowdfunded media project in history, seen by hundreds of millions worldwide. But I'm not here as an actor. I'm not performing. I'm here as a son who lost his mother, as a believer who encountered something on that beach that has wrecked me, transformed me, and compelled me to share this with you regardless of how crazy it might make me sound. Right now, before we go any further, I want you to do something. In the comments below, I want you to type the name of your mother if she's in heaven. Just her name. This isn't superstition. This isn't some ritual, but there's power in acknowledgement, in speaking their names into the digital space where you're hiding, scrolling, numbing yourself to the grief you've never fully processed. And if you're someone who believes that God still speaks, that heaven is not some distant, disconnected realm, but a reality pressing against ours like water against a dam, then subscribe to this channel right now. Click that button. Because what I'm about to share over these next few nights isn't for the casual observer, it's for the true believers, the ones who are hungry enough, desperate enough, broken enough to receive what heaven is trying to download into this moment. The beach was nearly empty at that hour. A few scattered souls walked in the distance, silhouettes against the ambient light of the sleeping city behind us. I had thrown on jeans and a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and driven 15 minutes in complete silence. No music, no podcasts, just the hum of the engine and the pounding of my heart that hadn't slowed since I'd jolted awake. The dream, God, the dream was still so vivid. My mother's face, younger than I'd seen it in years, looking at me with an expression I can only describe as urgent longing. She was trying to tell me something, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Behind her, dozens, hundreds, thousands of other women, all mothers, all with that same expression, all trying to speak, all silenced by some invisible barrier. I parked in the empty lot, the sound of my car door closing swallowed immediately by the wind and waves. The air was warmer than I expected for January, carrying that particular scent of nighttime ocean, salt and kelp and something ancient, something that predates human civilization. The sand was cool and firm under my feet as I walked toward the water's edge, each step feeling both voluntary and compelled, like I was being pulled by invisible threads. The waves were aggressive that night, not dangerously so, but insistent, throwing themselves against the shore with a percussion that felt almost angry. White foam glowed in the moonlight, racing up the sand toward my feet before retreating, leaving dark, wet mirrors that reflected the stars. I stood there, hands in my pockets, breathing deeply, trying to calm the anxiety thrumming through my nervous system. "Okay," I said aloud, my voice small against the ocean's roar. "I'm here. What am I supposed to—" And then he was there. I've tried to explain these encounters before, how Jesus appears to me, and words always fail. It's not like a movie where someone materializes out of thin air with special effects and dramatic music. It's more like he was always there, and suddenly I could see him, like my eyes were open to a frequency that had been broadcasting all along. He was standing at the water's edge, maybe 20 feet from me, wearing simple clothes that moved in the wind. A dark robe, nothing ornate or glowing or theatrical, but his face. His face was wet with tears that caught the moonlight, streaming down his cheeks unchecked, and the expression he wore was one of such profound grief that I felt my knees weaken. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice carried over the waves as if the ocean itself paused to let him speak. "Do you know what breaks the Father's heart more than almost anything else in this age?" I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. The air around him seemed thicker, charged, like the atmosphere before lightning strikes. He turned to look at the ocean, at the endless dark water stretching to the horizon. "The mothers," he said, "the mothers in heaven who watch their children stumbling, suffering, making the same mistakes, ignoring the wisdom they died trying to impart. They see everything, Jonathan, everything, and they weep." "I don't understand," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "They're in heaven. They're in paradise. How can they—" "Do you think paradise means forgetting?" He turned back to me, and the intensity in his eyes was almost unbearable. "Do you think your mother's love for you evaporated the moment she stepped into eternity? Love doesn't end, Jonathan. It intensifies. It purifies. It becomes more real, not less. And with that reality comes the pain of watching those you love refuse the very guidance you died wishing you could give them." The wind picked up suddenly, whipping sand against my jeans, pulling at my hoodie. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees in seconds. "Your mother," Jesus continued, stepping closer to me, "has been trying to reach you for months, not with some vague sense of presence, not with coincidences or signs you can dismiss. She has been given permission, rare permission, to send you a direct message, and you've been ignoring it." Ring. "What? No, I—" But even as I protested, memories flooded back. The recurring dreams I'd been dismissing as stress, the strange, persistent thoughts about conversations we'd had before she died, the way certain songs would come on the radio at impossibly relevant moments, the feeling which I'd been pushing away as grief-induced imagination that she was trying to tell me something important. "She's not alone," Jesus said, and he gestured toward the ocean. "Look." I looked at the water, and suddenly, I don't know how else to describe this, the moonlight on the waves began to shift, to coalesce, to form shapes, faces, hundreds of faces, thousands, all women, all mothers, all with expressions of desperate love and urgent concern. They were there in the foam, in the reflection of starlight on water, in the very movement of the waves themselves. "Every person watching this right now," Jesus said, his voice rising with emotion, "whose mother has passed into eternity. She is there. She is watching. She has a message, and time is running out for you to receive it." My legs gave out. I dropped to my knees in the sand, tears now streaming down my own face. "Why?" I choked out. "Why now? Why this way?" "Because you're running out of time," he said, kneeling beside me, his hand on my shoulder radiating warmth that contrasted sharply with the cold wind. "Not just you, Jonathan. Everyone. This generation has become so disconnected from the wisdom of those who came before, so obsessed with the new, the novel, the trending, that they've cut themselves off from the very voices that could save them from years of unnecessary pain." He stood, pulling me up with him, and we walked together toward the water's edge. The waves seemed to calm slightly as we approached, as if making room for us. "Your mother knew things," Jesus said. "She learned them through pain, through mistakes, through the hard-won wisdom that only comes from living and suffering and overcoming. She tried to tell you some of these things before she died, but you were too young, too distracted, too convinced you had time. And now she's gone, and you're making decisions about your career, your relationships, your spiritual life, that she could guide you through if you would only listen." "How?" I asked desperately. "How do I listen? How do I receive this message?" "That's what I'm going to show you," he said, "over the next 3 nights, here, in this place. But first, you need to understand the stakes." He turned to face me fully, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that felt like it was burning through every defense, every pretense, every wall I'd built. "There are people watching this right now who have 15 seconds to make a choice," he said. 15 seconds before they scroll past, before they dismiss this as emotional manipulation, before they close their hearts to what heaven is trying to give them. 15 seconds before they miss the message their mother has been dying to deliver. The wind howled. The waves crashed. And in that moment I saw it, a vision within the vision. I saw a young woman, maybe 30 years old, sitting in her car in a parking lot, phone in hand, watching this video. Her mother had died 3 years ago from cancer. They'd had a complicated relationship, lots of unresolved tension, things left unsaid. The daughter had been carrying guilt like a stone in her chest, making decisions from a place of unworthiness, sabotaging relationships, unable to receive love because she never got to hear her mother say, "I forgive you. I'm proud of you. You're enough." And her mother was there, in heaven, watching, weeping, trying desperately to send that message through every available channel, through dreams, through other people's words, through moments of unexpected peace. But the daughter kept dismissing it, kept telling herself it was wishful thinking, kept scrolling past anything that might crack open her defended heart. "She has 15 seconds, Jesus said, and I realized he was talking about the woman in my vision, but also about countless others. 15 seconds before she scrolls to the next video, the next distraction, and misses what could change everything. I saw another vision, a middle-aged man, successful by worldly standards, but hollow inside. His mother had died when he was a teenager, and he'd spent his entire adult life trying to prove something to a woman who was no longer there to see it. He was driven, ambitious, but never satisfied, never at peace. And his mother was watching, trying to tell him, "You don't have to prove anything. You were always enough. Rest, son, please rest." But he wouldn't listen. He couldn't listen. He'd built his entire identity on striving, on achieving, on earning a love that had always been freely given. 15 seconds, Jesus repeated, and now his voice carried a note of urgency that made my chest tighten. That's all the time between receiving this message and missing it entirely. That's all the time between breakthrough and another year of unnecessary suffering. The faces in the waves seemed to press closer, more distinct now. I could see individual features, expressions, the particular way each mother looked at her child with that unique combination of love and concern that only mothers possess. "Tomorrow night," Jesus said, stepping back from me, "I'm going to show you what these mothers see. I'm going to show you the specific messages they're trying to send. But tonight, I need you to do something." "Anything," I said. "Go home. Sit in silence. No phone, no TV, no distractions. Just sit and ask your mother, by name, to make herself known. Ask her what she's been trying to tell you. And pay attention to what comes up, the memories, the thoughts, the feelings you've been pushing away. Write them down. Don't dismiss them. Don't rationalize them. Just receive them." He began to fade then, not dramatically, but like the way the moon disappears when clouds pass over it, gradually, naturally, but completely. "Wait," I called out. "What if people think I'm crazy? What if they say I'm manipulating them?" His voice came from everywhere and nowhere, from the wind and the waves and the sand beneath my feet. "Let them say what they want. The ones who are meant to hear this will hear it. The ones who are marked will recognize the truth, and their mothers will finally be heard." And then he was gone, and I was alone on the beach with the wind and the waves and the overwhelming sense that I'd just been entrusted with something precious and urgent and absolutely critical. I stood there for another 20 minutes watching the ocean, feeling the temperature slowly rise as the night began its imperceptible shift toward dawn. The faces in the waves had faded, but I could still feel their presence, their longing, their desperate hope that their children would finally listen. When I got back to my car, I sat in the driver's seat for a long time before starting the engine. My hands were shaking, my face was wet with tears and salt spray, and in my chest there was a fire burning that I knew wouldn't go out until I delivered this message, regardless of the cost. So here's what I need you to do right now before we continue tomorrow night. First, if your mother is in heaven, type her name in the comments. Just her name. Honor her, acknowledge her, open the door even a crack for what she might be trying to tell you. Second, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Click that button, because tomorrow night I'm going back to that beach and Jesus is going to show me the specific messages these mothers are sending, and you need to be here for it. Third, and this is crucial, I want you to do what he told me to do. Tonight, before you go to bed, sit in silence for just 15 minutes. No phone, no distractions. Ask your mother, by name, to make herself known. Ask her what she's been trying to tell you and pay attention to what comes up. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it. Don't tell yourself it's just your imagination or wishful thinking. Just receive it, write it down, and come back tomorrow night ready to go deeper. Because I promise you, what Jesus is going to reveal tomorrow night will shatter everything you thought you knew about heaven, about the communion of saints, about the way love transcends death and time and space itself. Your mother is crying. She's watching. She has a message. And you have a choice to make right now, in the next 15 seconds, about whether you're going to receive it. The clock is ticking. I'll see you tomorrow night, same place, same time. Don't miss it. It was January 7th, 2026 at 3:15 a.m. when I returned to that same stretch of beach. But this time I wasn't driven by a dream. I was pulled by an appointment I couldn't break, a meeting that felt more real than any contract I'd ever signed, any call time I'd ever made. The ocean was different tonight, calmer on the surface, but with an undercurrent of power you could feel in your bones, like the pause before thunder, and the fog had rolled in thick and low, turning the moonlight into a diffused glow that made everything feel otherworldly, suspended between heaven and earth. I could taste the salt in the air, feel the moisture settling on my skin like anointing oil, and the sand beneath my feet was cold now, properly cold, January finally asserting itself after yesterday's strange warmth. I want to tell you what happened in the 24 hours between last night's encounter and this moment, because I know some of you did what I asked. I know because I've been reading your comments, and I've been weeping over them. Hundreds of you typed your mother's names. Hundreds of you sat in that silence and asked the question, and some of you, I can feel it, some of you received something that shook you to your core, but I also know that thousands of you scrolled past. Thousands of you watched last night's video and thought, this is too much. This is manipulation. This is grief exploitation. And you clicked away. You went back to your feed, your distractions, your carefully constructed walls that keep you safe from feeling too much, from hoping too much, from opening yourself to the possibility that heaven is not silent and your mother's love did not end with her last breath. And Jesus knew you would. He told me you would. And tonight, he's going to show me why you're so afraid to listen. I arrived at the beach earlier than last night, parking in the same spot, walking the same path down to the shoreline. But the fog changed everything. Visibility was maybe 30 feet in any direction before the world dissolved into gray-white nothing. The sound of the waves was muffled, intimate, like the ocean was whispering instead of shouting. My footsteps seemed too loud, intrusive, breaking some sacred silence. I walked to approximately the same spot where he'd appeared last night, where I'd fallen to my knees in the sand. I could still see the depression where my knees had pressed, not yet smoothed away by wind or tide. I stood there, hands in my jacket pockets. I'd dressed warmer tonight, and I waited. The fog swirled, the waves breathed, and I felt him before I saw him. You came back, Jesus said, his voice emerging from the mist before his form did. When he appeared, he was closer than last night, maybe 10 feet away, and his face still carried that expression of profound grief, but there was something else now too, a kind of fierce determination, like a father about to tell his children a hard truth they desperately need to hear. Of course I came back, I said. How could I not? Many don't, he replied, walking toward me slowly, his feet leaving no prints in the sand. I noticed that the way the physical world seemed to accommodate him without recording his presence. Many have encounters with the divine, receive clear instructions, feel the fire in their chest, and then let the world talk them out of it by morning. They convince themselves it was a dream, a delusion, an emotional moment they shouldn't trust. He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I could see the individual threads in his robe, the way the fog clung to his hair and beard, the depth of sorrow in his eyes that somehow didn't diminish the love radiating from him. Tonight, I'm going to show you what the mothers see, he said, and I'm going to show you why their children refuse to listen. Are you ready? I nodded, not trusting my voice. He reached out and touched my forehead with 2 fingers, and suddenly the beach disappeared. I was standing in what I can only describe as a vast room, but not a room with walls, more like a space carved out of light itself, with boundaries you could sense but not see. And in this space were thousands upon thousands of women, all ages, all ethnicities, all time periods based on their clothing, mothers, all of them mothers, and they were all looking down, their attention focused on something below them, and the expressions on their faces ranged from joy to concern to absolute anguish. This is one of the chambers of heaven, Jesus said, standing beside me now in this vision, where the mothers watch. Watch what? I asked, though I already knew. Their children, everyone they loved on earth. They see everything, Jonathan, not as punishment, not as some cruel cosmic surveillance, but because love doesn't end, love doesn't diminish, love doesn't become less interested in the beloved just because death has separated you temporarily. He walked forward, and I followed, moving between these women who didn't seem to notice us. We stopped beside one woman, maybe in her 60s, with kind eyes and worry lines etched deep around her mouth. She was looking down at something, and tears were streaming down her face. "Look," Jesus said, and suddenly I could see what she was seeing. It was her daughter, I knew somehow, a woman in her 40s sitting in a therapist's office talking about her childhood, about feeling unloved, about how her mother had been critical and distant and had never told her she was proud of her. The daughter was crying, explaining how this lack of affirmation had shaped her entire life, how she'd spent decades trying to earn love from people who couldn't give it, how she'd never felt good enough, never felt worthy. And the mother in heaven was weeping, her hands pressed against some invisible barrier, her mouth moving. "But I did tell you, I told you so many times. You just couldn't hear it through your own pain. I was proud of you. I am proud of you. I was just so broken myself, so damaged by my own mother, that I didn't know how to show it in ways you could receive. If I could just tell you now, if you could just hear me now." "Can't she hear?" I asked Jesus, my own throat tight with emotion. "She could," he said, "if she would open herself to it. But she's convinced herself that her mother's love was conditional, that she failed some test, that the relationship is over and done, and there's nothing left but to process the grief and move on. She doesn't know that her mother has been trying to reach her for 5 years, trying to send the message through dreams, through other people's words, through moments of unexpected peace that she dismisses as coincidence." He moved to another mother, younger, maybe in her 40s, with a vibrant energy even in her grief. She was watching her son, a teenager, making choices that were leading him down a dark path: drugs, dangerous friends, a hardness settling over his heart like armor. "Mom knew about this," the mother was saying, though no one could hear her but us. "Mom went through this exact thing with her brother. She knew the signs, knew the intervention that worked, knew the words that could reach him, but she died before she could tell me. And now I'm watching my son make the same mistakes, and I know what to do. I know, but he can't hear me. He thinks I'm gone. He thinks death ended my ability to help him." "Why?" I asked Jesus, my voice breaking. "Why can't they hear? Why doesn't heaven just break through, force the message through?" He turned to me, and his expression was patient but firm. "Because love doesn't force. Love invites. Love offers. Love knocks on the door and waits for it to be opened. Your mother can't force her way into your consciousness any more than I can force my way into your heart. The door must be opened from the inside." He touched my forehead again, and we were back on the beach, the fog even thicker now, the temperature dropping further. I was shaking, but not from cold. "Do you understand what you just saw?" he asked. "I think so," I said. "But it's so sad. It's heartbreaking." "It is," he agreed, "and it's unnecessary, because the barrier isn't on heaven's side, Jonathan. The barrier is on earth's side. The barrier is the belief that death ends communication, that the grave is a wall instead of a door, that your mother's wisdom died with her body instead of being purified and perfected in paradise." He began walking along the shoreline, and I walked beside him, the fog parting slightly ahead of us and closing behind us, creating a moving bubble of visibility. "Let me tell you what most Christians get wrong about heaven," he said, and there was an edge to his voice now, a challenge. "They think it's a place of eternal rest where the saints sit around on clouds playing harps, completely disconnected from the struggles of earth. They think that once someone dies, they're so caught up in worship and bliss that they forget about the people they left behind." "That's not true?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "It's a lie from the pit of hell," he said, and the intensity in his voice made me stop walking. He turned to face me, the fog swirling around us like living things. "It's a lie designed to cut you off from one of the most powerful resources heaven has given you: the intercession, the wisdom, the love of those who have gone before you. The communion of saints isn't some abstract theological concept. It's a living reality. Your mother is more alive now than she ever was on earth. Her love for you is more pure, more powerful, more focused than it ever was when she was limited by a physical body and a fallen nature." He started walking again, faster now, and I had to hurry to keep up. "The early church knew this," he continued. "They asked the saints to pray for them. They honored the wisdom of those who had gone before. They understood that death was not an ending but a transition, that the family of God extended across both sides of the veil. But somewhere along the way, that understanding was lost, or twisted, or buried under fear and false teaching." We stopped at the water's edge, where the waves were lapping gently at the sand, each retreat leaving behind a thin sheet of foam that glowed in the diffused moonlight. "Your mother has a specific message for you," he said, turning to me. Do you want to hear it? My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Yes, I whispered. Then ask her, he said, out loud, by name. Ask her to speak to you. I hesitated, feeling foolish, feeling exposed, feeling like I was about to cross some line that couldn't be uncrossed. But the look in his eyes, patient, encouraging, but also urgent, pushed me forward. Mom, I said, my voice cracking on the word. I cleared my throat and tried again, louder this time. Mom, if you can hear me, if you have something to tell me, I'm listening. I'm here. I'm open. Please, please speak to me. The fog seemed to thicken impossibly, and then, in the mist, directly in front of me, I saw her. Not clearly, not like a physical person, but like a form made of light and memory and love. My mother, her face, her presence, and I felt, more than heard, her words entering my mind, my heart, my very cells. Stop trying to earn what you already have. Stop performing for an audience that doesn't matter. Stop hiding the parts of yourself you think are too broken, too weird, too much. I see you. I've always seen you. And you are beloved. You are enough. You always were. I collapsed to my knees in the sand, sobbing, years of striving and performing and trying to prove myself crashing down around me. Jesus knelt beside me, his hand on my back, letting me weep, letting me release what I'd been carrying for so long. When I could finally breathe again, when the tears had slowed to a manageable flow, he helped me to my feet. That message, he said gently, is not just for you. It's for thousands of people watching this right now. Their mothers are saying the same thing, in different words tailored to their specific wounds, but the heart of it is the same. You are loved. You are enough. Stop striving. Come home to yourself. He walked a few steps away, looking out at the invisible ocean beyond the fog. But there are other messages too, he said, messages of warning, messages of correction, messages of guidance for specific decisions, and time is running out for people to receive them. Why? I asked, wiping my face with my sleeve. Why is time running out? He turned back to me, and his expression was grave. Because the window is closing. The Father, in his mercy, has allowed this season of unusual access, this thinning of the veil between heaven and earth so that messages can get through, so that the wisdom of the mothers can reach their children before it's too late. But this season won't last forever, and there are decisions being made right now, this week, this month, that will set the trajectory for years to come. Decisions about marriages, about careers, about children, about faith itself, and the mothers are watching, knowing what their children don't know, seeing what their children can't see, desperate to help but unable to break through the walls of skepticism and fear. He came close to me again, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes boring into mine. Tomorrow night, he said, I'm going to show you the consequences. I'm going to show you what happens when these messages are ignored, when the wisdom is rejected, when the door stays closed. And it's going to be hard to see. It's going to be painful. But you need to see it, and everyone watching needs to see it because the stakes are higher than anyone realizes. The fog began to lift slightly, and I could see the first hints of dawn touching the eastern horizon, turning the gray world into shades of pink and gold. Go home, he said. Rest. But before you sleep, I want you to write down everything your mother said to you tonight. Every word, every feeling, every impression. Don't edit it. Don't rationalize it. Just write it down, because you're going to need to remember it when the doubt comes, when the voices tell you this was all in your head, when the world tries to talk you out of what you know is true. He began to fade, the same gradual disappearance as last night, like morning mist burning off under the rising sun. Wait, I called out. What about the people watching? What should they do? His voice came from everywhere. Tell them to ask. Tell them to sit in silence again tonight and ask their mothers, specifically, what do you see that I don't see? What do you know that I need to know? What are you trying to tell me? And tell them to write down what comes, every thought, every memory, every impression. Because tomorrow night they're going to need that foundation for what I'm about to reveal. And then he was gone, and I was alone on the beach with the lifting fog and the rising sun and a peace in my chest that felt like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. I want to talk directly to you now, whoever you are, wherever you are watching this. I know some of you are skeptical. I know some of you think I'm making this up, or that I'm delusional, or that I'm manipulating you for views or money or attention. And you know what? I can't control what you think. I can only tell you what I experienced, what I saw, what I felt, what I heard. But I also know that some of you, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. You felt something when I described my mother's message to me. You felt a recognition, a resonance, like someone was playing a note that matched the frequency of your own hidden pain. And that's because your mother is saying the same thing to you right now. She's watching you watch this video. She's seeing the skepticism on your face, the walls around your heart, the fear that if you open yourself to this, you'll be disappointed or hurt or made a fool of. And she's weeping because she knows what you don't know, that you're about to make a decision that she could help you with, that you're about to walk into a situation she has wisdom about, that you're about to repeat a pattern she could help you break if you would just listen. In the comments from last night's video, I saw some of you share what happened when you sat in silence. One woman wrote that she suddenly remembered a conversation with her mother 2 weeks before she died, a conversation she'd completely forgotten, where her mother had given her specific advice about a situation she's facing right now. Another man wrote that he felt an overwhelming sense of peace and heard the words, "Stop running, come home." Another woman wrote that she saw a mental image of her mother smiling and pointing to a Bible verse, and when she looked it up, it was exactly what she needed to hear for a decision she's been agonizing over. This is real. This is happening. And you have a choice to make. Tonight, before you go to bed, I want you to do the exercise again, but more specifically this time. Sit in silence, 15 minutes minimum, 30 if you can manage it. No phone, no TV, no music, no distractions. Light a candle if that helps you focus. And then ask your mother these specific questions. What do you see that I don't see? What do you know that I need to know? What are you trying to tell me? And then wait. Pay attention. Notice what thoughts come up, what memories surface, what feelings arise. Don't dismiss anything as just your imagination. Write it all down, date it, keep it, because tomorrow night when Jesus shows me the consequences of ignoring these messages, you're going to need to remember what you received tonight. I also want you to do something else. In the comments below, I want you to share, if you're comfortable, what happened when you did the exercise last night. What did you hear? What did you feel? What did your mother tell you? Because your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear, to open their own heart, to take their own risk, to receive their own message. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Click that button. Because tomorrow night is the most important night of this series. Tomorrow night, Jesus is going to show me what happens when these messages are ignored, and it's going to be intense, and it's going to be challenging, and some of you aren't going to like it, but it's going to be true. And truth is what sets us free, even when it hurts. Your mother is crying, she's watching, she has a message, and the window is closing. Don't waste another day. Don't scroll past this moment. Don't let fear or skepticism or pride keep you from receiving what heaven is trying to give you. It was January 8th, 2026 at 2:33 a.m. when I arrived at the beach for the third and final night, and this time the weather had turned violent, not dangerously so, but dramatically, as if the natural world itself was responding to what was about to be revealed. The wind was whipping off the ocean in gusts that nearly knocked me sideways as I walked from my car, carrying the smell of storm and ozone and something electric that made the hair on my arms stand up. The waves were crashing with a fury I hadn't seen in years, throwing spray 20 feet into the air, the sound like thunder that never stopped, and the sky above was a roiling mass of clouds racing across the face of a moon that appeared and disappeared in seconds-long intervals, turning the beach into a strobe-lit landscape of shadow and silver light. I was terrified. I don't mind admitting that to you. I was genuinely afraid of what I was about to see, about what Jesus had promised to show me. The previous 2 nights had been intense, emotional, transformative, but there had been a gentleness to them, a sadness, yes, but also hope, also love, also the promise of connection and healing. But the way he'd spoken last night about consequences, about what happens when the messages are ignored, about the stakes being higher than anyone realizes, it had left me with a sense of dread that had followed me through the entire day. I'd barely slept. I'd spent hours reading your comments, weeping over your stories, amazed and humbled by what so many of you had experienced when you sat in silence and asked your mothers to speak. Hundreds of you had received messages, some subtle, some overwhelming, but all of them real, all of them specific, all of them exactly what you needed to hear. One woman wrote that her mother had told her to leave her abusive marriage, something she'd been too afraid to do. Another man wrote that he'd received clarity about a business decision that could have ruined him financially. Another woman wrote that her mother had shown her a memory from childhood that explained a pattern of self-sabotage she'd been repeating for 30 years. This is real. This is happening. And tonight, Jesus was going to show me why it matters so desperately that we listen. The sand was being blown into stinging clouds that pelted my face and hands as I made my way to our meeting spot. The tide was higher tonight, the waves reaching further up the beach, and I had to position myself well back from the water's edge to avoid being soaked. The temperature had dropped again. It felt like it was in the low 40s, cold for Southern California, especially with the wind chill, and I was grateful for the heavy jacket and scarf I'd worn. I stood there, bracing myself against the wind, watching the violent ocean, and I prayed. Not eloquent prayers, not theological prayers, just desperate, honest prayers. God, give me strength for what I'm about to see. Give me courage to share it. Give me wisdom to communicate it in a way that helps and doesn't just traumatize, and please, please let it make a difference. It will make a difference, Jesus said, and I spun around to find him standing behind me, his robe whipping in the wind, his hair blown back from his face, and his expression, God, his expression was terrible to behold. Not angry, not cruel, but filled with a grief so profound it seemed to radiate from him like heat from a fire. For those who have ears to hear, it will make all the difference. He walked past me toward the water, and I followed, having to lean into the wind to make progress. He stopped at the very edge of where the waves were reaching, the foam swirling around his feet, and he stared out at the dark, churning ocean. "Do you know what I hate most about my role as judge?" he asked, not looking at me. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say. "It's not the pronouncing of judgment," he continued. "It's not the separation of sheep and goats, the wheat and tares. It's the looking back at all the moments when intervention was offered, when wisdom was available, when help was extended, and seeing it rejected, ignored, dismissed. It's the knowing that so much suffering was unnecessary, so much pain was avoidable, so many disasters could have been prevented if people had just listened." He turned to me then, and the moonlight breaking through the racing clouds illuminated his face in stark relief. "Tonight I'm going to show you 3 futures," he said. 3 people who are watching this video right now, who have received their mother's message over the past 2 nights, and who are standing at a crossroads. I'm going to show you what happens if they listen and what happens if they don't. And then you're going to understand why your mother is crying, why time is running out, and why this message is so urgent it couldn't wait. He reached out and touched my forehead, and the beach disappeared. I was standing in what looked like a hospital room, sterile and cold, with fluorescent lights that hummed and flickered. In the bed was a woman, maybe 35 years old, hooked up to machines, her face pale and drawn. Sitting beside her was a man, her husband, I knew somehow, holding her hand and weeping silently. "This is Sarah," Jesus said, standing beside me in the vision. "She's watching your video right now, in her apartment on her phone, while her husband sleeps in the next room. Her mother died 2 years ago from breast cancer, and her mother has been trying to tell her something crucial for the past 6 months." "What?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "To get screened, to get the genetic testing, to not wait, to not put it off, to not tell herself she's too young or too busy, or that it won't happen to her. Sarah's mother had the BRCA gene mutation. She tried to tell Sarah to get tested before she died, but Sarah was so overwhelmed with caregiving and grief that she didn't follow through. And now her mother is watching from heaven, screaming at her to get tested, sending her dreams, sending her signs, putting articles in her path, having friends mention it casually, and Sarah keeps dismissing it as anxiety, as paranoia, as her grief making her irrational." He waved his hand, and the scene shifted. I saw Sarah looking healthier, sitting in a doctor's office, receiving test results. The doctor was smiling, explaining that they'd caught it early, stage 1, highly treatable. I saw her going through treatment, losing her hair but keeping her spirit, her husband beside her, her children, 2 young boys, drawing her pictures and climbing into her hospital bed for cuddles. I saw her 5 years later, cancer-free, volunteering at a cancer support group, helping other women navigate what she'd been through. "This is what happens if she listens," Jesus said. "If she receives her mother's message tonight, if she makes the appointment tomorrow, if she gets the testing done. She lives. Her children have a mother, her husband has a wife, and she becomes a source of hope and healing for dozens of other women." He waved his hand again, and the scene shifted back to the first image. Sarah in the hospital bed, but this time the machines were beeping frantically, and doctors were rushing in, and the husband was being ushered out of the room. And I knew with a certainty that made me want to vomit, that she was dying. "This is what happens if she doesn't listen," Jesus said, and his voice was thick with grief. "If she dismisses tonight's message as emotional manipulation, if she tells herself she'll get around to it eventually, if she lets fear or busyness or skepticism keep her from acting, by the time she finally gets tested, it's stage 4. Metastatic, and she has 6 months, 6 months to say goodbye to her children, to her husband, to the life she could have lived if she'd just listened to what her mother was desperately trying to tell her. No, I said, tears streaming down my face. No, please. She has to listen. She has to. She has free will, Jesus said gently but firmly. I can show her the path. Her mother can send the message. You can deliver the warning. But she has to choose. And right now, as she watches this video, she's deciding. She's deciding whether to trust what she's been feeling, whether to take the risk of looking foolish, whether to make that appointment or scroll past this moment and forget about it by morning. He touched my forehead again, and we were in a different scene. A man, maybe 40 years old, sitting in his car in a parking garage, engine running, staring at nothing. His face was empty, hollow, the look of someone who's given up. This is Marcus, Jesus said. His mother died 5 years ago. She was a praying woman, a woman of deep faith, and before she died, she tried to tell him something about his marriage, about the woman he was dating, about red flags she was seeing that he was ignoring because he was lonely and tired of being single. I watched as the scene shifted, showing Marcus's wedding day. His bride was beautiful, smiling, but there was something in her eyes, something cold, something calculating, that made me uncomfortable even in a vision. He married her anyway, Jesus said, dismissed his mother's concerns as old-fashioned thinking, as her being overprotective, as her not understanding modern relationships. And for the first year it was fine, good even, but then the mask started to slip. The scene shifted rapidly through moments, arguments that turned vicious, financial control, isolation from friends and family, emotional manipulation, gaslighting. I saw Marcus becoming a shell of himself, his confidence eroded, his joy extinguished, his very sense of reality questioned daily. His mother has been trying to reach him for 3 years, Jesus said, trying to tell him that it's not his fault, that he's not crazy, that what he's experiencing is abuse, that he needs to get out, that she sees what he can't see because he's too close to it, too enmeshed in it. She's been sending him dreams where she's pulling him out of dark water. She's been putting people in his path who've escaped similar situations. She's been creating moments of clarity where he sees the truth. And every time he dismisses it, tells himself he's being dramatic, convinces himself that if he just tries harder, loves better, the marriage will improve. Jesus waved his hand, and I saw Marcus in a therapist's office, alone, finally naming what he'd been experiencing. I saw him filing for divorce, going through the painful process of extraction, rebuilding his life slowly, carefully. I saw him 3 years later, remarried to a woman whose eyes held genuine warmth, whose love was freeing instead of imprisoning, and I saw him helping other men recognize and escape emotional abuse. This is what happens if he listens, Jesus said. If he receives his mother's message tonight, if he recognizes the truth of his situation, if he finds the courage to leave, he suffers, yes. Divorce is always painful, but he survives, he heals, he becomes whole again, and he helps others do the same. The scene shifted back to Marcus in his car in the parking garage, but this time I noticed the hose running from his exhaust pipe through the back window. No, I shouted, lunging forward as if I could stop what I was seeing, but Jesus held me back. This is what happens if he doesn't listen, he said, and there were tears on his face now, running freely down his cheeks. If he dismisses tonight's message, if he stays, if he lets the abuse continue until it breaks something fundamental in his soul, he makes it another 2 years, and then one night, after a particularly brutal argument, after being told one more time that he's worthless, that no one would ever love him, that he's lucky she tolerates him, he drives to this parking garage and he doesn't drive home. I was sobbing now, my whole body shaking. Please, I begged. Please, he has to listen. Someone has to tell him. Someone has to. You are telling him, Jesus said, gripping my shoulders. Right now, he's watching this, and he's deciding. He's deciding whether what he's feeling is real, whether his mother's message is true, whether he has the courage to act. And his mother is on her knees in heaven, begging him to choose life, to choose freedom, to choose himself. He touched my forehead a third time, and we were in a different scene. A teenage girl, maybe 16, sitting on her bed, phone in hand, tears streaming down her face. On her screen was a message thread with someone, and even from a distance I could feel the predatory energy of the conversation. This is Emma, Jesus said. Her mother died when she was 12. Cancer. And Emma has been lost ever since, looking for love in all the wrong places, desperate for the maternal affection and guidance she lost too soon. Right now, she's talking to a man online who claims to be 18 but is actually 34. He's grooming her, slowly, carefully, building trust, and in 3 days, he's going to suggest they meet in person. My stomach turned. No. God, no. Her mother has been trying to warn her for weeks, Jesus said, sending her feelings of unease when she talks to this man, putting news stories about online predators in her path, having her youth pastor preach about discernment and safety. And Emma keeps dismissing it, telling herself her mother is gone, that she has to figure this out on her own, that this man is different, that he really understands her. Jesus showed me two futures simultaneously, split screen in my mind. In one, Emma received her mother's warning tonight, felt the truth of it in her bones, blocked the predator, and told a trusted adult what had been happening. I saw her getting counseling, processing her grief properly, learning to recognize manipulation, and growing into a strong, discerning young woman who eventually helped other girls avoid similar dangers. In the other future, Emma ignored the warning, met the man in person, and I can't even describe what I saw. The violence, the trauma, the way it shattered her. I saw her at 25, still broken, still trying to piece herself together, still haunted by what happened because she didn't listen to what her mother was desperately trying to tell her. "Stop!" I screamed. "I can't see anymore. I can't." Jesus pulled me back, and suddenly we were on the beach again, the wind still howling, the waves still crashing, and I collapsed to my knees in the sand, retching, sobbing, completely undone by what I'd witnessed. He knelt beside me, his hand on my back, letting me purge the horror and grief and rage at the unnecessary suffering, the avoidable tragedy, the futures that hung in the balance based on whether people would listen or not. "Why?" I finally gasped out. "Why show me this? Why make me see it?" "Because someone has to see it," he said. "Someone has to understand the stakes. Someone has to communicate the urgency. Your mother's message isn't just nice spiritual comfort, Jonathan. It's not just emotional healing, though it's that too. Sometimes it's literally life and death. Sometimes it's the difference between freedom and bondage. Sometimes it's the warning that saves someone from years of unnecessary suffering." He helped me to my feet, and we stood there together, facing the violent ocean, the storm clouds racing overhead, the moon appearing and disappearing like a cosmic strobe light. "The mothers in heaven see what you can't see," he said, his voice rising to be heard over the wind. "They see the predator hiding behind the charming smile. They see the disease forming in cells before symptoms appear. They see the toxic relationship that looks like love. They see the business partner who's about to betray you. They see the opportunity you're about to miss. They see the pattern you're about to repeat. And they are desperate to warn you, to guide you, to help you avoid the pain they can see coming." He turned to face me fully, gripping both my shoulders, his eyes blazing with intensity. "But they can't force you to listen. They can only send the message and pray, and yes, they do pray constantly, fervently, that you'll receive it, that you'll trust it, that you'll act on it. And when you don't, when you dismiss it as imagination or wishful thinking or emotional manipulation, they weep. They weep because they see what's coming, and they're powerless to stop it because you've closed the door." Lightning flashed far out over the ocean, followed seconds later by thunder that I felt in my chest. "Tomorrow night," he said, "you're going to give people practical steps. You're going to tell them exactly how to open that door, how to receive these messages, how to discern what's real and what's not. But tonight, I need you to communicate the urgency. I need you to make them understand that this isn't a game, this isn't entertainment, this isn't content to consume and forget. This is life and death. This is freedom and bondage. This is the difference between the future they're meant to have and the tragedy they're walking toward." He released my shoulders and stepped back, and the wind seemed to intensify, whipping his robe around him like wings. "In the book of Hebrews," he said, his voice somehow cutting through the storm, "it says that you are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Do you know what that means? It means the saints in heaven are watching. Your mother is watching. Your grandmother is watching. Every believer who has gone before you is watching, cheering you on, praying for you, and yes, when permitted, trying to help you, trying to guide you, trying to warn you." He raised his hands toward the sky, and the clouds seemed to part slightly, revealing stars beyond. "The veil between heaven and earth is thinner than you think," he said. "Death is not the wall you've been taught it is, it's a door, and love passes through that door in both directions. Your mother's love didn't end when she died. It was purified, perfected, and now she sees with clarity she never had on earth. She knows things she didn't know. She understands things she couldn't understand, and she's trying to share that knowledge, that understanding, that wisdom with you." He lowered his hands and looked at me again. But you have to listen. You have to open yourself. You have to be willing to receive what sounds impossible, what seems too good to be true, what your rational mind wants to dismiss. Because the rational mind doesn't have access to the spiritual realm. The rational mind can't perceive what the spirit knows. And if you only trust what your rational mind can verify, you'll miss the most important messages you'll ever receive. The storm seemed to be reaching a crescendo, the wind at its peak, the waves at their most violent, and then suddenly, dramatically, it began to calm. The wind died down to a strong breeze. The waves settled into a more rhythmic pattern. The clouds started to break apart, revealing more stars, more moonlight. "It's almost over," Jesus said quietly. "This season of unusual access, this window of opportunity, the Father has allowed it because of the critical times you're living in, because of the decisions being made right now that will affect generations. But it won't last forever, and those who don't receive their mother's message now may not get another chance." He began to fade, the same gradual disappearance, but this time I felt a sense of finality to it, like this was truly the last night, the last encounter, the last chance to receive what he was offering. "Wait," I called out. "What about hope? What about the people who do listen? What about—" "Tomorrow night." His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "Tomorrow night is about hope. Tomorrow night is about the practical steps. Tomorrow night is about the future that's possible when you open the door. But tonight is about understanding what's at stake. Tonight is about feeling the urgency. Tonight is about your mother's tears and why they matter." And then he was gone, and I was alone on the beach with the calming storm and the emerging stars and a weight of responsibility that felt like it might crush me. I don't know how long I stood there, long enough for the wind to die down completely, long enough for the clouds to clear almost entirely, long enough for the moon to emerge fully, casting that silver pathway across the now gentle waves. And then I walked back to my car, got in, and sat there for an hour before I could even start the engine, trying to process what I'd seen, trying to find the words to communicate it, trying to hold on to the urgency without letting it become fear, trying to honor the message without manipulating people with it. So here's what I need you to hear right now, whoever you are, wherever you are watching this. If you are Sarah and your mother has been trying to tell you to get screened, to get tested, to not wait, make the appointment tomorrow. Don't put it off. Don't tell yourself you'll do it eventually. Your mother sees something you don't see, and she's trying to save your life. If you are Marcus and your mother has been trying to tell you that what you're experiencing is abuse, that you're not crazy, that you need to get out, believe her. Trust what you've been feeling. Reach out to a therapist, a pastor, a trusted friend. Your mother sees what you can't see because you're too close to it, and she's trying to save your soul. If you are Emma and your mother has been trying to warn you about someone in your life who isn't what they seem, listen. Block them. Tell an adult. Your mother sees the danger you can't see, and she's trying to save you from trauma that will take years to heal. And if you're someone else entirely with a different situation, a different warning, a different message, pay attention to what you've been feeling over these past 3 nights. Pay attention to the thoughts that won't go away, the memories that keep surfacing, the sense that your mother is trying to tell you something specific. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it away. Don't let another day pass without acting on what you know in your spirit is true. Your mother is crying, not because she's sad in heaven. Heaven has no sorrow for those who dwell there. She's crying because she's watching you walk toward pain she can see and you can't, and she's powerless to stop you unless you open the door and let her message through. Tomorrow night is the final installment. Tomorrow night, Jesus is going to give me and you the practical steps for receiving these messages, for discerning what's real, for opening that door and keeping it open. But tonight, I need you to sit with the urgency. I need you to feel the weight of what's at stake. I need you to understand that this isn't just interesting spiritual content. This is your life, your future, your destiny hanging in the balance. In the comments below, if you're willing, I want you to share what message you think your mother has been trying to send you. What have you been feeling? What keeps coming up? What warning or guidance or encouragement has been pressing on your spirit that you've been dismissing? Write it down. Make it real. Acknowledge it, because that acknowledgement is the first step toward receiving it fully. And subscribe if you haven't already, because tomorrow night's message is the most practical, the most actionable, the most hope-filled of all 4 nights. Tomorrow night is about the future that's possible when you listen, but you have to be here for it. Your mother is watching, she's praying, she's hoping, and she's waiting for you to open the door. Don't make her wait any longer. I returned to the beach one final time on January 9th, 2026, but this time I came at dawn, 5:47 a.m. to be exact, when the world was caught in that liminal space between night and day, when the darkness was retreating but the sun hadn't yet broken the horizon, and everything was painted in shades of deep blue and purple and gold. The storm had passed completely, leaving behind a clarity to the air that made everything seem sharper, more defined, more real somehow. The ocean was calm, almost glassy, with gentle waves that whispered against the sand instead of crashing, and the sky was beginning to glow with the promise of sunrise, streaks of orange and pink spreading across the eastern horizon like paint spilled across canvas. I was exhausted. I'd barely slept for 4 nights now, and the weight of what I'd seen, what I'd been shown, what I was being asked to communicate, it had taken a physical toll. My eyes were gritty and swollen from crying. My body ached from tension I'd been carrying. My mind felt simultaneously sharp with urgency and foggy with fatigue. But I was also filled with something else: hope. Despite the heaviness of last night's visions, despite the tears and the terror and the weight of responsibility, I felt hope rising in my chest, like the sun rising over the ocean. Because Jesus had promised that tonight, this morning, would be about the practical steps, about what's possible when we listen, about the future that awaits those who open the door. I walked slowly along the shoreline, my feet leaving prints in the wet sand that the gentle waves immediately began to erase. The air was cool, but not cold, maybe in the mid-50s, and it carried the clean smell of salt and seaweed and new beginnings. A few early morning joggers passed in the distance, and I could hear seagulls beginning their morning calls, welcoming the day. I stopped at the same spot where I'd met him the previous 3 nights, and I waited, watching the sky grow lighter by the minute, watching the stars fade one by one as the sun prepared to make its entrance. "You came at dawn," Jesus said, and I turned to find him standing beside me, his face turned toward the emerging sunrise, and for the first time in 4 nights, he was smiling. Not a big smile, not a grin, but a gentle, peaceful smile that transformed his entire countenance. That's appropriate, because what I'm about to give you is about new beginnings, about fresh starts, about the morning after the long night. "I'm ready," I said, and I meant it. He turned to look at me, and his eyes were clear, bright, filled with warmth and affection. "You've done well, Jonathan. You've been faithful to deliver a hard message, a challenging message, a message that many will reject or mock or dismiss. But it's going to save lives. It already has. Even before you post this final part, the messages from the previous 3 nights have already reached the people they were meant to reach. Sarah made the appointment. Marcus called a therapist. Emma blocked the predator and told her youth pastor. And hundreds of others have received their mother's messages and are acting on them." Tears sprang to my eyes immediately. "Really? They listened?" "Many listened," he said. "Not all, never all, but many. And that's what we're celebrating this morning. The ones who opened the door, who trusted what they were feeling, who took the risk of looking foolish or emotional or overly spiritual. They're going to experience breakthrough they couldn't have imagined. They're going to avoid pain they can't even conceive of. They're going to walk into futures that were always meant for them, but that they were in danger of missing." He gestured toward the water, and we began walking along the shoreline together, side by side, our feet, his leaving no prints, mine leaving temporary marks, moving in rhythm with the gentle waves. "But there are still thousands more who are on the fence," he continued. "Thousands who have watched all 3 nights, who have felt something stirring, who have received pieces of their mother's message, but haven't fully committed to acting on it. They're waiting for permission, for validation, for practical steps that make it feel less mystical and more manageable, and that's what this morning is about." The sun was beginning to peek over the horizon now, a sliver of brilliant gold that made the entire ocean shimmer and dance with reflected light. The temperature seemed to rise immediately, the warmth touching my face like a blessing. "I want to give you a 30-day challenge," Jesus said, stopping to face the sunrise fully, his face illuminated by the golden light. "A practical daily practice that will open and keep open the door between you and your mother in heaven, between you and the wisdom of the saints, between you and the guidance that heaven is constantly trying to send you." He turned to me, and his expression was both serious and encouraging. "Every morning for the next 30 days, starting tomorrow, January 10th, and continuing through February 8th, I want everyone watching this to do the following practice. It will take 30 minutes, not negotiable, not when you have time or if you can fit it in. 30 minutes every morning before you check your phone, before you turn on the TV, before you engage with the world. This is non-negotiable if you want to receive what your mother is trying to give you. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, ready to record exactly what he was about to say. Step 1, he said, and his voice took on a teaching quality, clear and authoritative. 5 minutes of silence, complete silence. Sit somewhere comfortable, light a candle if it helps you focus, and simply be still. Don't pray yet, don't ask for anything yet. Just be still and let your mind settle, let the noise of your thoughts begin to quiet. Let yourself become present to the moment. This is crucial because most people are so busy, so distracted, so filled with mental chatter that they can't hear anything beyond their own thoughts. Silence creates space for other voices to be heard. He paused, making sure I was getting it all down. Step 2, he continued, 5 minutes of invitation. This is where you specifically invite your mother to speak to you. Say her name out loud. Say something like, Mom, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm open to whatever you want to tell me. I trust that your love for me didn't end with death, and I'm ready to receive your wisdom, your guidance, your encouragement, your warnings. Please speak to me. Use your own words, but be specific. Be intentional. Be vulnerable. This isn't a casual prayer. This is you opening a door that's been closed and inviting someone you love to walk through it. A pelican flew low over the water, skimming the surface, and we both watched it for a moment before he continued. Step 3, he said, 10 minutes of listening. This is the hardest part for most people because it requires patience and trust. Sit quietly and pay attention to what comes up. It might be thoughts that feel like they're coming from outside yourself. It might be memories that suddenly surface with new meaning. It might be a sense of peace or conviction about a decision you're facing. It might be a mental image or a phrase that repeats itself. It might be a feeling in your body, warmth, tingling, a sense of presence. Don't dismiss anything as just your imagination. Write down everything that comes, even if it seems random or silly or disconnected. Your mother is learning to communicate with you, and you're learning to receive that communication. It's a skill that develops over time. He knelt down and picked up a smooth stone from the sand, turning it over in his hands as he spoke. Step 4, he said, 5 minutes of confirmation. This is where you take what you received in the listening time and you ask me, ask Jesus, ask the Holy Spirit, ask the Father to confirm it. Say something like, Jesus, if this message is truly from my mother, if this is truly from heaven and not just my own wishful thinking, please confirm it. Show me a sign, give me a piece, bring it up again through another source. This is important because not every thought that comes during listening time is from your mother. Some of it is your own processing, some of it might be interference from the enemy, and you need discernment. But if it's truly from heaven, confirmation will come. Sometimes immediately, sometimes within hours or days, but it will come. He tossed the stone into the water, and we watched the ripples spread out in perfect concentric circles. Step 5, he said, 5 minutes of gratitude and commitment. Thank your mother for speaking to you, even if you're not sure yet what you heard. Thank me for facilitating this connection. Thank the Father for allowing this communication. And then commit to acting on whatever guidance you received once it's confirmed. Say it out loud. I commit to acting on this message. I commit to trusting this guidance. I commit to honoring my mother's wisdom by putting it into practice. This step is crucial because receiving a message without acting on it is worse than not receiving it at all. It hardens your heart, makes you less sensitive to future messages, and grieves the heart of the one trying to help you. He turned to face me fully, placing his hands on my shoulders. 30 days, he said. 30 minutes a day, every morning, no exceptions. If someone does this faithfully for 30 days, I promise you, they will have received clear, specific, actionable guidance from their mother in heaven. They will have experienced breakthrough in at least one area of their life. They will have avoided at least one painful mistake, and they will have developed a practice that will serve them for the rest of their lives. The sun was fully above the horizon now, bathing the entire beach in golden light, and the beauty of it, the sheer, overwhelming beauty of dawn breaking over the ocean, made me want to weep again, but this time with joy instead of grief. What about people who are skeptical? I asked. What about people who think this is all psychological, that they're just talking to themselves, that there's no real communication happening? He smiled. Tell them to try it anyway. Tell them to approach it as an experiment. 30 days. If after 30 days of faithful practice they haven't received anything that feels real, anything that proves to be accurate guidance, anything that makes a tangible difference in their life, then they can dismiss it. But they have to actually do it. They have to give it a real chance, because I guarantee you, if they do this practice faithfully, They will receive something that can't be explained away as coincidence or psychology or wishful thinking. He released my shoulders and began walking again, and I fell into step beside him. I want to tell you about some of the futures I'm seeing right now, he said, his voice filled with excitement. Futures that are becoming possible because people listened, because they opened the door, because they received their mother's messages. He gestured broadly, and suddenly I could see them. Not full visions like the previous nights, but flashes, glimpses, snapshots of possible futures. I saw Sarah, 10 years from now, speaking at a cancer awareness event, sharing her story of how her mother's message from heaven saved her life, inspiring hundreds of other women to get screened early. I saw Marcus, remarried and happy, leading a support group for men escaping emotional abuse, his mother's warning having set him on a path of healing that now helps others find freedom. I saw Emma, now in her 20s, working with an organization that protects children from online predators, her mother's intervention having not only saved her but launched her into a calling that saves countless others. But there were so many more. I saw a man who received his mother's message about reconciling with his estranged brother, and I saw the two of them 20 years from now, their children growing up as close friends, a family legacy of connection instead of division. I saw a woman who received her mother's message about leaving her corporate job to pursue her art, and I saw her 30 years from now, her paintings hanging in galleries, her work bringing beauty and hope to thousands, a life of purpose instead of quiet desperation. I saw a young man who received his mother's message about his addiction, and I saw him 5 years from now, sober and strong, mentoring other young men through recovery, his mother's warning having interrupted a trajectory that would have ended in death. On and on the images came, dozens of them, hundreds, each one a life transformed because someone listened, someone trusted, someone acted on their mother's message from heaven. "This is what's possible," Jesus said, and his voice was thick with emotion. "This is what your mother is crying for, not because she's sad, but because she sees these futures. She sees what you're meant to become, what you're meant to do, who you're meant to help, and she's desperate for you to step into it. She's desperate for you to avoid the detours and the delays and the disasters that will keep you from your destiny." We had walked quite a distance down the beach, and he stopped now, turning to face me one final time. "There's one more thing I need you to communicate," he said, and his expression became very serious. "A warning about the deadline." My stomach tightened. "What deadline?" "February 8th, he said. 30 days from tomorrow. That's the end of this particular season of unusual access. That's when the veil thickens again, when this level of communication becomes much more difficult, when the window closes. It's not that your mother will stop loving you or stop praying for you or stop trying to help you, but this particular grace period, this particular opening, this particular opportunity for clear, direct communication, it ends on February 8th. "Why?" I asked. "Why does it have to end?" "Because seasons change," he said simply. "Because the Father's purposes move in cycles and rhythms. Because this level of access is a gift for a specific time, not a permanent state. And because urgency is sometimes necessary to motivate action. If people think they have unlimited time, they'll procrastinate. They'll put it off. They'll tell themselves they'll do it eventually. But if they know they have 30 days, they'll prioritize it. They'll make it happen. They'll receive what's being offered while it's still available." He reached out and placed his hand over my heart, and I felt warmth spread through my entire chest. "Tell them this," he said. "Tell them that their mother's love is eternal, but this opportunity is temporary. Tell them that after February 8th, they'll still be able to pray, still be able to ask for guidance, still be able to sense their mother's presence in subtle ways. But this level of clarity, this level of direct communication, this level of specific, actionable guidance, it's available right now in this season, and they need to take advantage of it while they can." He removed his hand, and I felt the warmth linger, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. "What about people whose mothers are still alive?" someone asked, and I realized it was me asking, but the question seemed to come from somewhere else, from all the people watching who would have this question. "Tell them to call their mothers today," he said immediately. "Tell them to have the conversations they've been putting off. Tell them to ask the questions they've been afraid to ask. Tell them to receive the wisdom while their mothers are still in the flesh, still able to speak with physical voices, still able to hug them and look them in the eyes. Tell them not to wait until their mother is in heaven, to wish they'd listened better when she was on earth." The sun was fully risen now, the beach bright and warm, and early morning beachgoers were beginning to arrive, families with small children, elderly couples walking hand in hand, surfers carrying their boards toward the water. It's time for you to go, Jesus said gently. Time for you to take this message and share it. Time for you to trust that the people who need to hear it will hear it, and the people who are meant to act on it will act on it. Will I see you again? I asked, suddenly afraid of losing this connection, this intimacy, this direct access to his presence. He smiled, and it was the warmest, most loving smile I'd ever seen. You see me every day, Jonathan, in the faces of the people you serve, in the beauty of creation, in the quiet moments when you're still enough to notice. But yes, we'll have encounters like this again, when you need them, when the message requires them, when the Father sends me to you. But for now, you have what you need. You have the message, you have the practice, you have the deadline. Now go and deliver it. He began to fade, but this time it felt different, not like an ending, but like a transition. Like he was stepping back but not leaving, like he was always there, but I was returning to normal perception. Wait, I called out one last time. What if people don't believe me? What if they think I made all this up? His voice came from everywhere, from the sun and the sand and the waves and the air itself. Let them think what they want. You're not responsible for their belief. You're only responsible for your obedience. Deliver the message. Do the practice yourself. Let your life be the proof. And trust that the ones who are meant to hear will hear, and the ones who are meant to act will act. That's all I've ever asked of any of my messengers. And then he was gone, and I was alone on the beach with the morning sun and the gentle waves and a peace in my soul that felt like coming home after a long, exhausting, transformative journey. I stood there for a long time, just breathing, just being, just letting the experience settle into my bones. And then I walked back to my car, got in, and sat there with my notebook, writing down everything he'd said about the 30-day practice, making sure I had every detail correct, every step clear, every instruction precise. Now I'm here, talking to you, delivering this final message, and I want to be very clear about what I'm asking you to do. The 30-day challenge, January 10th, February 8th, 2026. Every morning for the next 30 days before you do anything else, you will spend 30 minutes in this practice. Minutes, 1-5, silence. Sit in complete silence. No phone, no TV, no music, no distractions. Light a candle if it helps. Just be still. Let your mind settle. Become present. Minutes 6 to 10. Invitation. Speak your mother's name out loud. Invite her to communicate with you. Say something like, "Mom, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm open to whatever you want to tell me. I trust that your love didn't end with death. Please speak to me." Use your own words, but be specific and vulnerable. Minutes 11-20, listening. Sit quietly and pay attention to what comes up. Thoughts, memories, images, feelings, physical sensations, phrases that repeat. Write down everything, even if it seems random or silly. Don't dismiss anything as just your imagination. Minutes 21-25, confirmation. Take what you received and ask Jesus to confirm it. Say, "Jesus, if this message is truly from my mother, truly from heaven, please confirm it. Show me a sign, give me peace. Bring it up again through another source." Minutes 26-30, gratitude and commitment. Thank your mother for speaking. Thank Jesus for facilitating. Thank the Father for allowing this communication. Then commit out loud to acting on the guidance once it's confirmed. I commit to acting on this message. I commit to trusting this guidance. I commit to honoring my mother's wisdom. 30 days, 30 minutes, no exceptions. If you do this faithfully, I promise you, Jesus promises you, you will receive clear, specific, actionable guidance. You will experience breakthrough. You will avoid painful mistakes. And you will develop a practice that will serve you for life. But you have to start tomorrow, January 10th, and you have to complete all 30 days by February 8th. After that date, this particular window closes. Your mother's love doesn't end, but this level of access, this level of clarity, this particular grace period, it ends. Here's what I need you to do right now. First, in the comments below, type, "I commit," if you're going to do this 30-day challenge. Make it public. Make it real. Accountability matters. Second, set an alarm on your phone for the same time every morning for the next 30 days. Whatever time you can consistently do this, whether it's 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., set the alarm now. Don't wait. Don't tell yourself you'll remember. Set it now. Third, get a dedicated notebook or journal for this practice. Not notes on your phone, not random scraps of paper. A physical notebook where you'll record everything you receive during the listening time. Date each entry. This will become a precious record of your mother's messages to you. Fourth, tell someone you trust that you're doing this challenge. Ask them to check in with you weekly to make sure you're staying consistent. This isn't something you can do casually or sporadically. It requires commitment, and accountability helps. Fifth, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already and turn on notifications. I'm going to be posting weekly check-ins throughout the 30 days, encouragement, testimonies from others doing the challenge, guidance for common obstacles. You'll need that support. Sixth, if your mother is still alive, call her today, right now, before you do anything else. Tell her you love her, ask her the questions you've been afraid to ask, receive her wisdom while she's still here to give it in person. Don't wait until she's in heaven to wish you'd listened better. I want to share something personal with you. Over these 4 nights, I've done this practice myself, and my mother has told me things that have already changed my life. She's warned me about a business decision I was about to make that would have been disastrous. She's encouraged me about a relationship I was doubting that she sees as exactly right. She's reminded me of a promise I made to her before she died that I'd forgotten about, a promise about using my platform to point people to Jesus, not to myself. And she's told me over and over that she's proud of me, that I'm enough, that I don't have to perform or prove or strive to earn love that's already freely given. Those messages have healed wounds I didn't even know I was carrying. They've given me clarity about my future that I've been desperately seeking. They've set me free from patterns of behavior that have held me back for years. And if this practice has done that for me in just 4 days, imagine what it will do for you in 30 days. But you have to actually do it. You can't just think about it or plan to do it or tell yourself you'll start eventually. You have to start tomorrow morning, January 10th. And you have to do it every single day for 30 days. I know some of you are skeptical. I know some of you think this is all psychological, or that I'm delusional, or that I'm manipulating you for views or money. And you know what? I can't control what you think. I can only tell you what I've experienced, what Jesus has shown me, what I know to be true in the deepest part of my soul. But I'll make you a deal. Try it anyway. Approach it as an experiment. 30 days. If after 30 days of faithful practice you haven't received anything real, anything that proves to be accurate guidance, anything that makes a tangible difference, then dismiss it. Walk away. Tell everyone it was all nonsense. But you have to actually do it. You have to give it a real chance. Because I guarantee you, I stake my reputation on this, if you do this practice faithfully for 30 days, you will receive something that can't be explained away as coincidence or psychology or wishful thinking. Your mother is watching you right now. She's watching you read these words or listen to this video, and she's hoping, desperately hoping, that you'll take this chance, that you'll open this door, that you'll receive what she's been trying to give you. She sees your future. She sees what you're meant to become. She sees the decisions you're facing and the wisdom you need. She sees the pain you're about to walk into and the warning that could save you. She sees the opportunity you're about to miss and the encouragement that could give you courage to seize it. And she's crying, not because she's sad in heaven, but because she loves you so much, because she wants so desperately to help you, because she knows what's possible for you if you'll just listen. Don't make her wait any longer. Don't scroll past this moment. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later. The clock is ticking. You have 30 days, starting tomorrow. Your mother has a message for you, a specific, personal, life-changing message. And this is your chance, maybe your only chance at this level of clarity, to receive it. I'll be here with you throughout the 30 days. I'll be posting updates, sharing testimonies, offering encouragement. You're not alone in this. Thousands of people are going to do this challenge with you. We're going to support each other, pray for each other, celebrate the breakthroughs together. But you have to take the first step. You have to make the commitment. You have to set the alarm, get the notebook, and show up tomorrow morning, ready to listen. In the comments right now, type, "I commit," and your mother's name. Make it real. Make it public. Make it a promise you can't easily break. And then tomorrow morning, when that alarm goes off, don't hit snooze. Don't tell yourself you'll do it later. Get up, find your quiet space, light your candle, and begin. Your mother is waiting. Heaven is waiting. Your future is waiting. And you have 15 seconds, right now in this moment, to decide if you're going to receive it or scroll past it. Choose wisely. Choose life. Choose to listen. I'll see you in the weekly check-ins. I'll be praying for you, and I can't wait to hear the testimonies of what your mother tells you, how your life changes, what breakthroughs you experience. This is real. This is happening. This is your moment. Don't miss it. Deadline, February 8th, 2026. Commitment, 30 days, 30 minutes, starting January 10th. Promise, clear guidance, specific messages, life-changing breakthrough. Your mother's final message is waiting. Go receive it.